solution will look back in the IPython notebook. Your code should look something like this. You could also use the original dataset by uncommenting the commented lines here. Now run this piece of code. We can again use the describe function to look at a summary of the data. Once that finishes running, you will get a table that looks very similar to the one we got for Illinois. We can then look at the first 10 lines of the F_California data frame. Running that code then gives you this table. When you scroll down, you will see the 10 rows we wanted printed and 28 columns. So now we have a new data frame for California. Throughout this lesson, we'll show examples with the state of Illinois dataset. At some points in quizzes, we'll ask you to use the California dataset and repeat what we have just shown. We're going to explore the Medicare dataset somewhat further. Remember, we wanted to see how we can find anomalies in the data. Although we wanted to find outliers, the exercise here is not necessarily to find fraud or outliers. Note the exercise here is not necessarily to find outliers or fraud in the Medicare data, but to walk through the ways we can go about finding anomalies in data in general. So the next important question we are going to ask is, what are the variables of interest in the dataset? Let's switch back to the IPython notebook to investigate this. We had seen from the summary of the dataset that we had 28 different columns of data. We had seen from the summary of the dataset that we had 28 different columns in it. Let's try to print the names of the columns. To do so, simply execute this line of code. The list of columns is long. If you scroll to the bottom of it, you will see 6 variables that may be of interest to us. One of them is called average Medicare allowed amount. The other is average submitted charge amount. And another is average Medicare payment amount. The 6 variables that may be interesting are the average and standard deviation of the Medicare allowed amount, the submitted charge amount, and the Medicare payment amount. These are the variables that have directly some indication of charges. We're going to investigate these variables further. Some of the other columns are very specific to Medicare and could be useful if we did some more research on Medicare and the data. However, without doing some domain-specific research, we can still see that these variables could be of interest in detecting unusual charges. To keep things simple, we are only going to use the average Medicare amount. We can use the standard deviation of the Medicare allowed amount and the submitted charge amounts and the payments amount as inherent irreducible variance in the average charges. After looking at the variables of interest in the dataset, we came to the conclusions that the allowed amount, the charged amount, and the payment amounts might be of interest for our investigation.